What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Fudge Muppet. I'm Scott here with Michael, and today we've got another fun discussion for you guys to be privy to.
Yes, well, it's a Dark Elf discussion because recently Scott has been telling me a lot about Dark Elves. In fact, I would say he won't stop telling me about the Dark Elves.
Best race.
His favorite race. They are an extremely cool race and culture in the Elder Scrolls universe, and so today we're going to convince you to do another Skyrim playthrough and tell you why you need to play a Dark Elf in Skyrim in 2022.
Well, all the best reasons. Well, I think if you know,
I have to get him to get it out of his system.
Yeah,
so.
well, if you know me, or if you've listened to the podcast before or anywhere on the channel, like I absolutely froth the Dark Elves, okay? And a big part of that is because of their lore and the background and the role-playing opportunities it provides. And we're super into role-playing here, all of our builds. There's a lot of Dark Elf builds. You probably find a lot of Dark Elf builds for us. And because they're one of the most diverse races in terms of sort of philosophies and sort of even professions or playstyles. So, for example, when you're looking at a Nord, you've kind of got the main philosophical divide is basically true Nord, and then there's imperialized Nord. Or you go to Red Guards, it's like the true Red Guards, and then it's like the imperialized forebears kind of thing.
Or the Imperials, or the spicy kind of like Nibonese, like there's all this kind of stuff. But you know, when it comes to Dark Elves, and I think Morrowind added so much to Dark Elf lore, so that there's actually kind of just more lore about the Dunmer than there are about, you know, other provinces, other races and cultures and things like that. And they have this great house system. And, you know, within all these great houses, you have all these different philosophies that are completely different to one another. You know, you've got the Telvanni who are like super, you know, knowledge hungry, kind of he who is the most knowledgeable and powerful in magic deserves to kind of, you know, be powerful and in charge and win, essentially. And then you've got House Redoran, who are very like straightforward and honorable and kind of pious and warrior focused and things like that. You've got Hlalu, the sellout shills, who, you know, you could be like a real commerce kind of like corrupt merchant kind of Dunmer if you wanted to do a playthrough like that. Yeah. And then of course you've got like the very like zealous kind of approach to things.
Indoril, honestly, like this, the character here is a hand of Almalexia. It's like who believes Almalexia is still alive, and so on. Anyway, and then there was House Dress as well, which are, you know, renowned for slavery, but also they are one of the more like sort of ancestor kind of focused groups. But out of all of these exist really strong philosophical and gameplay archetypes to play. So for example, if you wanted to be a warrior Dark Elf, you can get in there and you can be a Redoran character, a Redoran warrior, or like you can be that knight chivalrous archetype essentially, but with the Morrowind flavor. If you want to be a mage lord, you do the same thing with Telvanni, so on and so forth for each one of them. Hlalu, if you want to be that thiefy archetype. And the best part about Skyrim specifically is Skyrim has a whole DLC dedicated to Morrowind nostalgia essentially, because you've got the settlement of Ravenrock that added in chitin armors, bone mold armors, various different weapons, and then as you see here, with the Creation Club, as part of the Anniversary Edition, they've added some DLCs like the Ghost of the Tribunal, which add a ton of artifacts from the previous games and so on.
You can get some very cool aesthetics, as you can see on the screen here.
Ebony scimitars, in Doral armor, you can get the masks of the Tribunal themselves. So if you were thinking like, I want to be some sort of like maybe kind of sagey Dwemer character. We did one with the Clockwork Apostle. We made her like wear Sotha Sill's mask and so on. But with the Dark Elves, there are so many lore role-playing opportunities for backgrounds and stuff, but also it's facilitated by the gameplay in Skyrim. Because sometimes you have to do things like, I'm a wood elf character, but you've got options of like fur and pelt and looking things, but the options aren't there.
And I think it's a very interesting experience too, to be playing Skyrim. You know, it's a land of the Nords. It's a very human place, and there's a lot of anti-elf sentiment there. And, you know, when you've played Morrowind before, you're very much the outsider in their land. So it's kind of fun to do the reverse and play a Dark Elf. I mean, you know, you walk into Windhelm and, you know, there's the whole scene there with the two Nord men picking on this Dark Elf woman. And, you know, there's the whole Grey Quarter stuff. And then that lends itself to, like, all of the current history with the Dark Elves is quite interesting because now they're very much, I guess you could say, the underdogs on Tamriel after being, you know, quite powerful. And at many times kind of unconquerable to a large extent. now with Red Mountain erupting erupted a long time ago, and Morrowind being covered in ash, you've got all the refugees coming over. The Argonians, who were mistreated by the Dunmer for so long, were like, we're going to, mess things up for you. Come up here, slaughter everyone. There's a whole lot of change going on from what it seems like in the Dragonborn DLC. It seems like House Redoran is very much like the dominant player.
Yeah, which used to be at the moment in that scenario.
For sure. And the other interesting thing is, unlike being, a high elf where you could role play some kind of like Thalmor ties or potentially or Old Mirri Dominion allegiance, with the Dunmer, you're very much like a stranger. Like, you have pretty much little reason to be in Skyrim from like a, like a self-interested perspective outside of escaping from Morrowind. You are the underdog, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people who don't like you, and I think in addition to the kind of houses and stuff about Dark Elves, they're versatile, and it's not just versatile in terms of like the houses and the lore and what kind of character you can build, but even like biologically or like skills wise. Dark Elves are known to be a very versatile race. They can be great with a sword, great with a bow and arrow, great with magic. They're kind of like that. They have that jack of all trades energy. But of course, you can pick one and really focus in on that and not necessarily feel like you're out of place. Though that, of course, has its place. It's fun to be the orc mage. But
it's like if Imperials are the jack of trades human, the jack of all trades elf is the dark elf, essentially, I think. Because if you think about a lot of other things, they're quite typecast. You don't have to follow that, like you were saying, but generally they sort of do fall into one category. But like, another thing too is in regards to the role-playing, not just the great houses, you've also got all of the minor factions and things like the Buoyant Armigers with the Knights of Vivec,
the Morag Tong, if you want to be all assassiny, and there's Morag Tong armor. And
one of the best things too about the setting is, because of all the events of the Red Mountain and so on, you have the fall of the Tribunal. You've actually got all of this cool role-playing potential because there is a rise of the new religion, which is essentially a return to the old ways in the form of the new reclamation, so worshipping what they consider the three good Daedra, Mephala, Azura, Boethia. And within that, and also you could have, say, a character that sticks to the old ways of the Tribunal and believes they're still alive or so on, especially when it goes to the Tribunal DLC, you can kind of join a cult.
And I mean, the three Daedra, like if you've listened to our podcasts where we talk about them extensively, are some of the most, if not, depends on your opinion, the most interesting Daedric princes out there to worship. So there's a lot of build potential too if you want to just be that like Boethia worshipping Dark Elf or the Azura worshipping one, or Mephala especially. There's a lot of, when you dive deep into Mephala, there's a lot of really cool stuff there. And their artifacts are obviously really cool as well, which you can get. You can go and get the Ebony Blade.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out if you're looking for a build, the Warrior of the Reclamations was a build. Like we had the Ebony Mail, Ebony Blade, Shrouded Hood looked awesome.
That was cool.
But like also the other thing too, if you are in general into the lore, and usually when you go and play a race in the Elder Scrolls, like you'll sort of like get into that specific race's lore. So if you're learning all about the strongholds, if you're an orc and such stuff like that, if you are going in to play a Dark Elf, especially for someone new, learning about Dark Elf lore, right, is one of the most central things. If you look at the creation story of all of Mundus and so on, and all the different variations, they all revolve around Lorcan, or whatever figure you call him, right? This Lorcan and his heart that gets thrown and then that into the water, and that becomes Red Mountain. And that's become such a central piece to all of Tamriel's history. The Dark Elves' conflicts with the Nords, the Dark Elves' conflicts with the Dwemer, the construction of the Numidium, no Tiber Septim conquest. There's such a central lore player. Learning about their lore is just going to help you
it puts you on the timeline, and it kind of forces you to learn about some of the coolest and most, I suppose, controversial events where people don't know necessarily all the time what happened on the Elder Scrolls timeline. And like you said, it really connects you with a lot of the cultures that are, or the remnants even of cultures that are in Skyrim, because the Dark Elves, the Kaimar, which the Dark Elves come from, again, learning more about the lore and stuff like that, they have an extensive history with the Dwemer. You have the Dwemer ruins you can explore in Skyrim and read about them. As you said, they've had extensive conflicts throughout history, tons with the Nords. They've been historically enemies with each other. So you have all of the kind of lore there as well.
And I've said this like plenty of times too. In some regard, it's kind of unfair because the Dark Elves did just have such a high quality and diverse amount of writing at the time of their game in terms of the setting. Like writing was the focus of Morrowind, the factions, the interplay of all of that and so on. Whereas later they sort of took different focuses with their game design and so on. But what that's resulted in is that you've got the Dark Elves, which are this really like rich, diverse faction. And then a lot of the other ones are a bit more typecast. You've got, your Vikings, you've got your sort of Moors, you've got your like, French sort of knights and the Bretons. And then you've got, your high elf and wood elf they've all got their own twists.
They're all cool.
Like Khajiit have been a runner-up, but we can do that video
Khajiit
another time.
have done really well with Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online, when it first came out, it did some things with the lore that, we weren't necessarily fans of. But definitely with the addition of the more expansions and DLCs, they add bit by bit by bit, and suddenly you've got a lot. And the stuff they did with the Elsewhere expansion and the Khajiit's lore in general was really, really cool, especially fleshing out the worship in the Daedric Princes. But we'll save that for another video where we want to just go on and on about the Khajiit.
Yeah.
But you got to play a Dunmer.
Yeah, I think it's honestly it's one of the better experiences. And it's like I said, there should be no hesitation if you're like, oh, but I want to play a warrior, or I want to play a mage, or I want to play an assassin. Options are all there. Morag Tong assassin,
easy to justify,
thief,
I suppose, is the way to say, because as you know, you can play any kind of character with any race, but you have such a good philosophical and like in-game lore background to do anything with a dark elf.
And also being an elf race, they're long-lived. So theoretically, if you wanted that character that's been around since the late Third Era, was there to witness the Oblivion Crisis, and you want that as their sort of like backstory arc development to, and put them to where they are now,
100%.
You can feasibly have a 250-year-old dark elf easy.
Yep.
So like there's just so many cool options, so many cool things. Of course, like the actual, like this goes with all of Skyrim, like it's functionally easy to be any sort of class that you want, because it's quite like there's that sort of organic system of growth, because it's just a small stat boost, but you can make up for that later in regards to skills.
You can't forget about the fire resistance as well.
It is handy against dragons, and if you decide to be a vampire, it does like sort of cancel out the vampires.
That's true.
But look, you just get resist magic or spell absorption anyway by the end of it. But it's a fun experience.
Sure.
And check out Ghost of Tribunal stuff 100%. It's just
and check out
so
the hand of Almalexia build,
which uses
have you got it out of your system? Is the main question before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think I got it out of my sister. Any excuse to talk about the Dark Elves.
He might get me tomorrow or next week with more Dark Elves.
I can get equally enthusiastic about a few other races, but
let us know what you want to hear us talk about. But
some of them I have to work harder for. But
it's funny. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's 100% because of you. I mean, it probably is subconsciously, but I almost feel like I would do a Dark Elf playthrough soon.
Yeah,
I just don't want to give you the satisfaction that it's you talking to me. That's why I'm doing it.
Just flashing up too, like just a real quick other thing in roleplay.
Okay.
Without the three good Daedra, they also have a very specific, like the four corners of the House of Troubles, like Marin's Dagon, Sheogorath, Malakath, Molag Bal, that they're very against. But another role playing opportunity. It's like, I want to be a vampire who turned away from like the Daedra worshipping of the Reclamations, or turned away from the Tribunal and found comfort in Molag Bal's vampiric curse or something. So there's just so many ways that your backstory can just fit in really nicely with Dark Elf specific things. You could roleplay one of the Morrowind
play a Dark
clans.
Elf. And in fact, if there is a Dark Elf build that we haven't done that you want to see us cover, let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
let us know exactly what kind of Dark Elf you want to see or you want help with. And if you want to reach us on Twitter with more questions, social media links are in the description. Thanks for tuning in. It's been fun. Have a little chat.
Play a Dark Elf.
Play a Dark Elf. Have a wonderful day. And we look forward to nerding out with you again next time.